Phone calls can come in during the weekend. Nobody could trigger the person. Nothing could happen. Nothing could go on. Nothing would whatever. And then the next week, I was to read, go back and help this person and read the code again, this other code, a second code. And when I read the second code, immediately, here comes personalities that I had talked to, 50, 60, 70 times. They're all coming back up saying they were protected and nothing happened. Nobody got them. Nobody communicated to them. That's not the method that we're going to tell you about using and helping folks, but I'm just saying that's how it works. It works powerfully. And we'll tell you some of the other sides of it in a little bit too. So there's codes that will be given to them. They all have them, so that when little kids that have been through abuse are taken to psychiatric places or taken to safe places, someone might send them a card that has code in it, a trigger in it, to shut them down, to terrify them, not to speak anything. Might send them a little bunny rabbit, that a certain kind that was used in a shutdown code to say that they would be ripped to shreds. So if they have that little thing, that all their fear, they see that. You might have one personality. You'll notice in some, they might be sitting around doodling. We notice in numerous folks that as we're talking to them, asking them questions and things, they're drawing an eyeball. They're drawing other things, the words punishment, justice, or the satanic justice symbol. And so as they're talking, they're drawing, and so I said, what are you drawing? And then we found out this eye means people are watching you. Inside there's watchers. Outside there's going to be justice. You better shut up, and a shutdown. So they're controlled. They're given codes and trigger codes, and sometimes they're controlled by them. Let's see what happens next. After they're given codes and trigger phrases or words or songs or even times, that every night at 11 o'clock, we knew this one person, every time at 11 o'clock they would go into a trance. This one lady, every time at 11 o'clock, she had no idea how her father knew everything. He was the abuser, the satanic abuser. How he knew everything. Well, then we found it out. Every night at 11 o'clock, there would be a switch automatically. As soon as she saw it was 11 o'clock, another personality would call and tell all the information, just a 3-minute call, and that was it. Who she'd been with, who she's talking to, what she's telling, everything. So we got outwitted numerous times, 10, 12 years ago when this occurred. When other personalities inside, cult personalities, were setting us up. They're listening to everything. They're hearing everything we're saying. Well, we'll protect you this way. We'll pick you up at 4 o'clock and take you over here, and you'll be protected, and no coven members will get you. Well, then personalities inside told the coven, and so the coven got them at 3 o'clock. So you got to watch out all the information you're going to give too. If you have an active cult multiple that's still intact, you got to realize there's those inside that will take reconnaissance. They'll get all the information about you. There's others that will do warfare stuff. We'll talk about that. Well, after the codes, then they're placed in the system. I used to call this with one person. It made them a little bit mad. Again, they came from military side of deep level satanic stuff too. I would say then it's like monkeys in a cage. That this personality is created, everything's done to it, given codes, they're put into a little slot over here, and then another one, and another one, and another one, and another one, and then anytime they want to use you. But this has really helped break some of the cult-loyal personalities to where they begin to realize, yeah, I'm just being used. They only call me up when they need me to kill or do whatever or do a ritual. Then they make me go right back down, and I have to stay there because they're not allowed to come up. And so many times I've said that it's like monkeys in a cage, and they're just mistreating you, and they're doing this. This is not how human beings should be, taught. You are meant to be created by God with a will that can say yes, a will that can, choose. Most of these personalities don't know anything about choosing. Well, the next thing is the handlers. The handlers on page 4 are those folks that watch over these people, that have the entire system probably in a code book or on a computer. They know everything that's been trained inside. They know their development, what they can be used for, what assignments they can do, what they can do for the coven, depending on who's using them. They have outside watchers that will come, and if they start to get free, if they're going to a psychiatrist, if they're going to a church member's house, if they're going somewhere to get help, they may have watchers. I can tell you some incredible stories about watchers later if we have time. But they send people out just to keep an eye on them and make phone calls. Oh, they're over here. Oh, they're over here. And then they have those same watchers or others who will enforce. They will come up and give punishment. They will drive up by them. They will they'll call them. They will hurt them. Normally, they will not come after you or the therapist or others. They may create a personality to switch to hurt you, to scare you off. We can talk about that too. The handlers know all the personalities and what they're going to be, used for. Well, what happens then? Okay, here's a person has 35, programmed, demonized, trained personalities with all their trigger codes. They're all inside this person. This person's, working over there at Firestone or working there in the computer store. Everything seems fine, and they seem like a pretty fine person to you or whatever. But at nighttime, they get ready to go to bed. A phone call comes in. It's an activation. They're being triggered out. A phrase comes in. It's to do a job. Get to the ritual site. Bring the body to the ritual site. Bring the body to here. They might be triggered out to steal, to kill, to destroy. They might be triggered out to infiltrate places, to go offer sex somewhere, to come and abuse somebody else, to abduct others, to be a courier of drugs and information, or to get to the ritual site. And they must, when they switch and the program personality's up, they're like trance-like, and they're there to do their job. And you're going to have to, when they're into that state, along with prayer, there's times we've had to hold people. There's other times when we've seen them take some of our guys that used to work with us. I would say that one of our guys who used to work with what weighed 310. 318 at the heaviest. And here was this little federal officer's wife, high, complex, powerful, multiple. And there was a night that we were to keep her from the coven. But when she switched over to another programmed, demonized personality, she took care of him and got loose. Remember Mark chapter 5? The empowerment of that, the demonization gives empowerment. But even in programming, if you hypnotize a 12-year-old girl, if you never get hypnotized, by the way, and never allow it, by the way. And if you want to talk to me about that later, that's fine. Holly Hector was trained as a hypnotherapist. She was a Youth for Christ worker, and when she got into all this, she gave it up completely and says that it opens doors. I believe with all my heart that hypnotizing people not only creates sometimes temporary parts of them, it's used to hide secrets or to make them do stuff. People say, well, you can't hypnotize people to do anything against their will. Just so you know, that's a total lie. You can get them to do anything. You can get them to kill. You can get them to be a pornography, player. You can get them to do anything. If you hypnotize them to the deepest level, you can bypass their total moral will. And that's you know where that comes from? The Mind Control Conference in Richmond, Virginia. Corey Dunhammond, who was the head of the Ericksonian Hypnotherapy School, all the hypnotherapists and psychologists there in that big, massive room, they all agreed. You can hypnotize people to do things against their will. Don't let anybody hypnotize you. I think it opens doors for the spirits just to come in, and it's like taking bark off a tree because it bypasses your own cognitive choosing, your own cognitive will in a sense, and at least allows influence, if not attachment. So never let anybody hypnotize you, and never do it to anybody else. Those who do that can get people to do some crazy things, but in these permanent states, they can get them to do horrific things. Well, if they're activated, they go out and go to the ritual, they do the stuff, or they go out and they steal a child and bring the child to the ritual site, or they go out and they, do some kind of thing against a church or whatever. When everything's done, the personality that's been triggered knows to clean up everything, to hide everything, to do whatever else. The one woman we dealt with for years and years and years, her truck would be spotless clean the next morning. I mean, just minutely cleaned. No traces, no trace evidence. They know all about forensic evidence and luminol and all that kind of stuff. They'll wash things down with. They do everything to get rid of stuff. Well, then after it's all done, they're shut down. Then they have to go back. To get the body home. And they go back down through that's what they've been programmed, to go back to sleep or back to their cage, back to their area, and the other person wakes up in the morning. They might feel they had bruises. They might see they got blood on their clothes. They might be in a total different set of clothes, but they don't know what they did for the last 8 hours. And they're shut down. And then there's amnesia. The host person, let's just say, is there any Missies here tonight? A Missy? Okay, I'm just going to use the name Missy, okay? I wanted to make sure there was no Missy. If there's a Missy, okay, there's a Missy that has all these parts inside. If they've lost time, 2 hours,